You're watching this video because you received an invitation to go through shepherding training with us with using the Beans Corner Leadership Academy that we've set up for this very purpose. Now you may say, well, I don't feel like I'm up to being a shepherd. I don't know if I'm qualified to be a shepherd. I'm intimidated or feel unworthy. And that's okay to feel that way. It's okay to think that way. But I hope that if you've received this invitation, that you will at least attempt to go through this training and consider it and allow God to use you and change you. We'll talk about that more in a little bit. But through a series of videos and some interaction with me, we're going to do some training. I'll also have some other people speaking in some of the videos. All of these are intended to be on the shorter side so that you can fit them into what I'm sure is a busy schedule and many things that you have going on. Going through this training is not going to obligate you to join our shepherding team, but it is an invitation for you to start that process. And then we'll go through the process together and figure out, and if you're ready, we will extend an invitation for you to formally join our team. We need new leaders. We need more people. And you've been extended this invitation because some of us, myself included, has seen in you what looks like the ability and the spiritual growth to serve as one of our shepherds. So I hope that you'll partner with me in this training and be challenged. Be willing to be taught, be willing to be called. Being uncomfortable is part of the job. Right now we're gonna watch part 1 of the training, which is called Calling All Leaders. And then I'll be back and we'll talk a little bit about what we see in this short training video. So let's watch.
Ultimately, the one definition of leadership is somebody who has followers. Hans Finzel, in one of his books, says the person who thinks he's a leader and finds himself alone is only taking a walk.
There are good leaders and bad leaders, and I think we as Christians, we should be the ones role modeling what it is to be a good leader, what it is in that case to be a good shepherd. What does it mean to, care for my church or my region or whatever I do.
Jesus he shepherded us, and he was a shepherd, and he said, my sheep, I know them. So do you know your people? As a leader, you need to know your people.
I've developed a sense of great inadequacy when it comes to leadership. But through the years, God put me in positions where the leadership was called forth. I've never sought leadership, but it's been placed upon me by those around who apparently saw some things in me that God could use.
I like to watch leaders, and a leader can walk into a room and say they've walked in for the first time. I can watch them and just see how they carry themselves, who they talk to, what they notice, who gravitates to them. I can tell you something about that person. Because leadership is a relationship process, and it's very, very physical. It's not an idea. Leadership isn't just an idea. It's a physical reality. People experience it with their bodies. They sense a person who has influence. They feel it.
I think that we cannot become leaders, become followers in the first place before. We cannot become number one, not being number two, to learn to be shaped, to be equipped for the positions.
I really believe if you're called to leadership, you must learn about leadership and resource yourself and understand theology and leadership and formation.
As soon as you sign yourself up for being a leader, you're going to be, to quote somebody else's book title, hammered as gold, and you're going to be forged into the shape that Christ wants to make you.
All of these videos will be about that long, maybe a little bit longer. There are between 4 and 8 minutes. Like I said, During this training, we will have a few other speakers that we'll share with you as we're just seeking to equip you, encourage you, and prepare you to be part of our team shepherding the church. Let's talk about what this means. What does it mean to be a leader? Because different churches have different expectations. What are we looking at? What are you being invited into? Well, the call is to care, not to rule. Sometimes we think about leadership and we think about being in charge and holding power. But this is not about exerting control over people. It's about leading people towards Jesus. You've been at Beans Corner long enough by now to know that this is not a church where we're trying to exercise heavy-handedness, trying to dictate to people how they should live, but instead calling people to obedience in the gospel. And that's very different, because sometimes we see leadership as a power that I have over others. But here it's the power to serve and the power to encourage people to surrender and follow Jesus. And so that's what you're being called to. Also, in that video, it talked about that you're called to leadership rather than you choose leadership. And that's important, because sometimes people pursue leadership because they want power, they want to be in charge, and that's really not what we're looking for. The fact that you may say, well, I feel a little uncomfortable, I feel unworthy, to me is actually something that makes me more inclined to think you're ready for leadership. Because you're called into leadership, it shouldn't be something that you look at as some sort of achievement. And so if we're calling you into leadership, it means we've seen something in you. And it means that we'll talk about it more. But you have been called, perhaps. It may not be something that you on your own would choose. I never wanted to be a senior pastor, and yet 15 years now I've been senior pastor, and I don't know that I've ever felt comfortable in the role, but it's what God called me to. Another thing in the training, it talked about leadership being a relationship process, not an idea. And again, this is something that sometimes gets missed, that really, the real heart of true leadership is in the relationship. Now, some of you say, well, I am not primarily a relationship person. I'm not terribly social. I'm not the get out there and shake every hand, and that's okay. Because how we do relationship and how we exercise leadership is going to change according to our own gifts and abilities. And so you may not do it in the same way. Cody and I are two very different people, where I am kind of a people addict, and Cody's office is back in the back room where nobody can find him because he loves to be behind the scenes. And yet Cody is great at relationship, but usually one-on-one in very limited areas. But Cody has given us tremendous leadership when it comes to helping steer us forward and helping give us the tools to lead people. And sometimes you hear from him. But people experience leadership, and people experience your leadership by interacting with who you are and what you do. And again, that may look different. For me, it may be you sit down and talk with me or listen to me teach. With Cody, it's more likely that you're watching the fruit of his labor. Either way, you are helping to shepherd and participating in shepherding people. Another thing in the video was the idea of being a leader means being a follower first. And this may be the part that you're most comfortable with, because all of us have to be followers too, and you cannot be a good leader if you're not a good follower. And again, some people miss that because they don't want to follow, they want to lead. One of the reasons that I watch church in Australia every Saturday night is because I need to be fed, I need to be cared for. And I have other pastors and men in my life, including some of the current elders, who I answer to, who I am accountable to, and who I follow. And even in the relationship between Cody and I, where Cody is a lot younger and Cody is under me in the hierarchy of our church, yet there are many times when I need to listen to Cody and follow his wisdom, because God has given him a place, and I need to be able to allow him to lead some so that I can be a better leader myself. And again, you may not be used to that, because not all leadership structures, even in the church, work that way. But that is really what makes a good leader. And leaders who cannot ever follow usually become pretty rough and demanding leaders. The last thing from the video, and this is so huge, and I hope that you'll really take it to heart as we go through this training. Leadership done well will make you more like Jesus. And becoming like Jesus is uncomfortable because it requires parts of us to die. It requires a lot of our pride to die, and that pride might be, I don't like to look stupid. That pride is, I don't like to be seen. That pride is, I like to be seen. That pride might be, I hate to not let anyone know that I don't know what I'm doing, or I hate to fail. I have had to have all those pieces of pride die, and then they crop up and I have to kill them again. But being a leader in the model of Christ will make you more like him. And it will pound on you, and it will change you. It will humble you in ways that will make you uncomfortable, but in ways that will make you better. Because you will begin to reflect Christ more. You may not feel strong, but in your weakness you will see God do amazing things in the lives of those around you. And you're going to hear from some share a little bit about what that can look like. So there's our first training session. That wasn't too bad, was it? And I hope that feel free to review this and go through it again, and then keep moving forward as we go through these trainings. And I hope that this will begin to equip you and prepare you. We'll be having some meetings in person. We're going to be having some other training events. And then we'll be working to, as you're ready, steer you into joining formally our shepherding team and working with us as we seek to be Jesus' church, making disciples, helping others make disciples, and together following Jesus. So thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the next training session.